Hiya and welcome to Brain Injury Bites, where we provide help and advice for people after a brain injury. My name's Brooke and I've lived with a traumatic brain injury since 2007.
Hi, I'm Ashwini and I'm a trustee at Headway Warrington. I'm also a senior associate solicitor focusing on catastrophic injury, including brain injury. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of esteem, that feeling of confidence, of accomplishment, and having the respect of others as well, because that can have a huge impact on your self-esteem. We're also going to be talking about it specifically in the context of what you do on a day-to-day basis, whether that's work or something else, and how you go back to that after brain injury or not. It may be that after a brain injury, you might be looking to go back to work. And if so, there may be adaptations to take into account or certain limitations. Or otherwise, it might also be an opportunity to look at finding something else that you enjoy that has meaning for you. Brooke, I'd like to talk to you about your experiences. Of course, you were at university at the time that your injury happened. Did you really have a sense of what you wanted to achieve in life at that point?
I was studying for a degree in electrical engineering and with a view to go and work with my dad on the oil rigs. I didn't have that much of a plan in life, but one thing that having the injury did, it certainly put a stop to any plans that I did have. I remember like a really early initial phone call with my dad when I was actually laid in the hospital bed, and he was telling me about a job opportunity that he had because he was working in the Middle East at the time. And I genuinely thought he was talking about a job for me. Maybe this is like a lack of insight, or it's just not really understanding things properly. My dad was talking about a job for him, but I kind of hid it as, because all that was on my mind at the time was I wanted to start work, I wanted to do something with my life. And I was thinking that I was going out to work either in the North Sea or in the Middle East in a couple of months' time. And I genuinely thought that, but I suppose I didn't realise that I'd been in this coma. I suppose now it was like the middle of the summer, and if anybody remembers the summer of 2007, it wasn't really, it was pretty much non-existent. But it was now like July, and I had the accident in May. I didn't really realise that a few months had passed. I just didn't really realise anything, to be honest.
I suppose as well, thinking about, where you were at that point in time in terms of being in university, having friends who were looking forward to graduating and having the normal 9-to-5 job, so to speak. Were you sort of thinking that was going to be your path as well?
I was always aware that I needed to do something. I didn't realise I didn't realise the enormity of what had happened to me at all. I just thought it was going to be like when my dad was talking about, I thought I was genuinely going to, in a couple of months' time, I'm going to be either in the North Sea or in the Middle East working. My dad had said to me something I remember him saying was, no, your job's to get better. And I thought, no, it's not. I thought, I need to get back to work. I just didn't realise what had happened to me. One, because I didn't really remember. I had no memory of this thing. From my point of view, I was just in this hospital and loads of people were coming to see me. I didn't really think about why or what for, but it was something I thought was very much temporary.
Yeah. And it sort of touches on something we've talked about before, this idea of not running before you can walk, allowing yourself the time to recover. But when you're in that situation and perhaps there is that lack of insight as to just the enormity of what's happened to you and the fact that you can't just pick up, get out of bed from hospital and go into a job, but it can be quite difficult to come to terms with as well. And I know that you were concerned that you didn't want to be sort of in a position where you weren't doing anything or perceived as someone on benefits. Not that there is anything wrong with that, I should hasten to add, but I think for you that wasn't what you wanted.
I remember there was a TV program out at the time called Benefit Street, and it was like pretty much looking down on people that were on benefits. So the whole premise of the show was look at these people not working and living off the government, and everybody was looking down on them, calling them scum and what have you. And I just thought that's what I was doing at the time, and I wanted to get away from that. I think one of the things for me was I wanted to earn people's respect, really. I didn't want people thinking ill of me.
And respect is a big part of your self-esteem, feeling that other people respect you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't... Obviously, everybody had seen me have this accident, get run over by this car. I'd seen me in a coma, gradually getting, waking up from a coma, saying my first words. But I didn't see anything about. I didn't know anything about that. I just remember my genuine first memory of coming out of a coma was like 6 weeks later after the accident. Me being in, it's called C2 warding at Hope Hospital. Sorry, it was Hope Hospital then. It's Salford Royal Hospital now, and just seeing all my photos by my bedside and just thinking, what have I done now? That was my first memory. It wasn't, I had no clue of the enormity of what I've been through.
We've also talked about in previous episodes, around the idea of not comparing yourself to others. But naturally, you would have been looking at your friends who were, at the beginning of their career journeys, carving out that sort of normal, dare I say, lifestyle of full-time jobs, etc.
Yeah, I think what happened to me... Well, it happened to me at 24, but I think I was really a couple of years behind everyone else because I'd gone travelling first when I was 21, and I never really wanted to go to university when the time was, when everybody normally went to university. It was 18. I wanted to go travelling first, so I did that, and then when I come back, I was 24, and a lot of my friends had been to university. They started out on this career, or if they hadn't been to university, they'd been working that particular job that they'd been doing for quite some time, so they're getting like established in it, and I was still like at the bottom of the pecking order, and I just had this fatigue issue. The main issue for me has been this fatigue, and it was just horrendous because I couldn't even watch a TV program for half an hour. So the thought of like going back to uni was just a non-starter. I was aware of all my friends like starting out in their lives and starting in their careers and stuff. I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And I remember hearing at a friend's party, some of the men there were talking to one of my friends. I just remember like the level of respect that he was getting. I thought I wanted that for myself, because I know all of a sudden like I'd been through this big trauma, but I was just I was a poorly boy, so I didn't really want. I wanted to get away from that image. I felt this need to do something, but my options were limited because I couldn't concentrate and I couldn't do anything. I remember it was when I went to live with my sister in Manchester. She had this book on the shelf, and I've never even read this book. I've spoken about it a few times. It was like, do something every day that scares you. And I never even read the book. I don't even know what it was about, but I took it to mean, to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I was visiting my sister, and I was on the metro. I was on the tram, and there was a Metro free newspaper, and there was a little article in there of like the things that people are most scared of. And there was, I think like death was number 3, and then it was spiders, and then number 1 was public speaking. I thought, I've never been like massively confident, but I just thought, that's something I could do, because I thought if everybody's scared of it, then I could do that, and I wouldn't be scared of it. And it fit well because the actual public speaking itself, that would only take a half an hour, and then you could spend your own time planning what you're going to say. Yeah. And also, I wanted to respect off people, and I thought if it's something that people are more scared of, then I could do it.
And they could respect you because you're doing something that they might be scared of.
Yeah.
And I guess you could talk about something that was very personal to you, i.e. your experiences, and that would be engaging for people listening to you.
The first thing I ever did was I got involved with this, because I was living in Scarborough at the time, and I got wind of somebody was setting up a Headway group, and I mean, bear in mind, Headway I know a lot about now, but at the time I'd never heard of this thing, Headway. And I got invited to come along, and I did this speech basically of what happened to me, and I think about 40 people came to watch me, and I mean, it wasn't a great performance, but I just literally I had it written down on a piece of paper, word for word, what I was going to say, and I put my head down and I read it. But I wrote it quite well, and it got a good reception. I remember like the round of applause you get at the end, and I just wanted, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be like appreciated in life. I just wanted to be, I always wanted to do something with my life, but I didn't quite ever know what. But having this injury, it just massively limited that. And I just thought, for there was a while I thought I'm never going to be anything. I'm just going to be to be poorly in this house. But that was something, I got a buzz out of it. And then from there, my auntie had got me a few, she worked for North Yorkshire County Council, and I got into working with I got into working with the fire service there, and they used to go and visit like different colleges. They would speak about road safety, and I would speak about being a victim of a poor driver. From that, I moved over to Manchester, and I used to go and do it in I used to do it in Castleford. It used to be quite petrifying because they were only young, they were 17, 18-year-olds at college, and they were a bit because I suppose because the fireman was like in a position of authority, they were giving him no respect and stuff, and they were giving him a bit of cheek. And I just thought, like when a comedian gets heckled, I thought I would just crumple because my speed of thought was just so slow. But bless them, when I started speaking, they were all really, really nice and really respectful. I think it was because I don't know, why did they respect me?
Well, I think it's also, your story touches so many people, let's be fair.
Yeah.
And I guess in the context of road safety, they will have probably had the road safety chats many, many times, but to see the other side of it, that this is the consequence of, bad driving.
And a lot of what the firemen did, they used to play them adverts that were on TV, which were full of actors and stuff anyway. But,
whereas here's a real person.
Yeah, a real person. So, and then I was like, the guy was called Andy Walker, and I said, have you got anything else that I can do? And he put me in touch with somebody who worked for the fire service in Manchester called Leslie Allen, who was doing this thing called Safe Drive Stay Alive. And Safe Drive Stay Alive is a show will work like this. It'll be, say, someone from the police, someone from the fire, someone from the ambulance, maybe the hospital will each tell a particularly harrowing story from their career. And then I come out and I tell what happened to me because I'm a victim of poor driving of a young driver. It's really, really powerful. I'm really proud to be involved in it.
But that's amazing, from not knowing what to do with your life to then starting out, telling your story, realizing the effect that had on other people, that people were sitting up, taking notice, respecting you, to getting that message out to so many people where it could really make a difference.
I'd like to think so. I mean, the Safe Drive Stay Alive, it's like you can never quantify how many people you do help, how many lives you do save, but I'd like to think, it makes people think twice, turn out into a busy junction, and it definitely has an effect. You get your jack the lads, don't you, who want to look hard in front of the mates and pretend they're not bothered, but you do get a lot of them fainting, you get a lot of them crying afterwards, and what we do is we stand in like the foyer afterwards when people, when they're all coming out of the theatre, and they walk, so a lot of them walk past, but some of them come up and say how good it was and how much you've inspired them, and that old thing, isn't there? You know, if you only save one life, it's worth it. But having seen what, you know, me nearly dying has done to my family, you know, if you can save that, you know,
the trauma,
and you know, I was lucky as well. If you could save that for one family, it was certainly worth it. So
yeah, definitely. And it's. Hey everyone, this is a short segue to introduce our new home, the Community Compass app. It's a space built just for people navigating life after serious injury and for the families, friends and carers walking that path with them. Inside, you'll find real stories from others living with brain injury, tips for recovery and wellness, and a community that truly understands what you're going through. Community Compass isn't just an app, it's a place to connect, to be seen, and to find strength when you need it the most. So if you're listening and thinking, I could use that, then just search Community Compass on the App Store or Play Store, download it and come join us. Is it still something that scares you, public speaking?
I think I'm bothered about doing a bad job. I'm bothered about letting people down now, because it was Leslie, now it's now a lady called Roz. So I still go on with notes. I don't go on without my notes, because I just got this fear of, like, you're under a spotlight, and what if you just forgot what you're going to say? I do a little bit scared of that, but as long as I've got my notes, I'm all right. It's public speaking. It's just a practice thing. It's like a skill. It's like anything else. People say I couldn't do that, and, like, you know, I couldn't do it at first because I looked down and read word for word off the piece of paper, but now you get to a point where you start looking up and you start looking people in the eye, and, you know, you've got all these things that, you know, imagine the audience naked and stuff like that, but you don't have to do that. It's just your confidence comes with time. Yeah,
because you've done it so many times, and you know
it's just like speaking to one person, but it's, you know, speaking to a lot of them. That's all it is.
And I guess, you know, people enjoy listening to you. You're good at it. How did you get into the blog writing?
Again, it was something that it was the product of being stuck at home with nothing to do. I had this Dell computer, and it was, do you remember, is it dongles?
Yes.
And you used to plug them into your laptop, into your USB, and it was a T-Mobile dongle, and we used to get on the internet that way. It was just literally searching for something with brain injury, because I had this thing that was wrong with me, but I didn't really sort of believe it myself. I didn't really understand it. I wanted to know more about it. And I was just researching, trying to Google stuff for brain injury, but, like, all that you ever got was, like, extreme examples of brain injury where people, you know, barely are, like, in a terrible way. But obviously that didn't speak to me. I remember thinking that I'd love to kind of have some sort of website where people could go, and, you know, people like who were in my position could go and learn about it.
Yeah, especially if they were experiencing a lot of the same things that you were, and just understand why that might be, and that it's okay to be going through that.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was also something that, much like the public speaking, the preparation for it, you could do in your own time without pressure.
Yeah, I remember ages ago when I was younger, my dad used to work on the oil rigs, and he used to bring me, like, software home, and he used to brought me this thing called Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing, and he's trying to get me to learn how to touch type, because my dad could always touch type and I never could. But it was like anything, you know, you tried it for maybe a day and then you just got bored of it. But so I remember the Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing, so I downloaded that off the internet and I taught myself to touch type, and then somebody suggested writing a blog, and I put that off for a while, and then I just wanted to produce this content for my website. I just wanted to do something, because everything was so miserable. Everything was so, like, extreme versions of brain injury, and everything was so misery. And I wanted to write it with a bit of humour in it as well.
I guess as well, a lot of things that you probably were accessing at the time were also very medical, very scientific.
Exactly, yeah.
And just having sort of the voice of someone who's been through it, you know, a normal person.
Yeah, that's what I want it to be. Not I don't mean like a friend to people, but so something accessible and something relatable.
Yeah, yeah. And do you get much feedback from?
I used to write the blogs, and I used to post them on different Facebook groups and stuff. Obviously, the basic one is sort of a brain and spine injury centre, Headway. There's a few different brain injury groups around the world. That's what's the great thing about the internet. Is post them there, and I used to read all the comments and stuff, and it's like loads of people say how good it is, and then you get one person being abusive, and it's just that's what sticks with you. Yeah, of course it is. But I was really into like promoting the Facebook site. I started a Facebook page, and I used to be on it a lot, and I think I got up to about 2,000 followers.
I mean, I guess thinking about some of the positives that have come out of what happened to you, you discovered perhaps a love of and a passion for communicating, be it through public speaking or writing, that perhaps you might not have otherwise found.
No, I think like you had in your head that the only way to be successful in your life was to go to school, go to college, go to uni, get your best exam results, get a job, and then work until you die. And it's
9
not
to 5,
and it's not the case, is it? And I suppose I come away with everything. I'm quite critical of myself, and all you think about if you've done some sort of public speaking of what you've is what you've done wrong. But
I think you need to big yourself up more and think about the people
I'm a psychologist,
inspired by it.
I'm too hard on myself, but I suppose that's how you get better, isn't it? And it's you feel it improving every time.
Yeah, and like between the public speaking, the blog writing, it's the things that you can do in your own time, taking into account your fatigue, etc. You've got time to prepare, and your story better than anybody else. So it's talking about what you know, what you, what sort of comes from the heart, I guess.
Even though I know my story, though, I couldn't recite it. I don't know. Could I? I probably could, but without my, I need my notes there. I need my notes just to prompt me. I don't need to read, line word for word anymore, but I just need a little bullet point, and I can talk on the back of that. And without that, I'd probably go off on a tangent and forget what I was talking about.
In addition to the public speaking and the blog writing, you've also been doing a lot of fundraising and, dare I say, also getting your fitness to sort of, almost professional levels. How did you get into that?
Fitness was something that absolutely, it literally saved my life. I mean, when I was run over, it was really quite badly. I was the 3 on the Glasgow Coma scale, which it doesn't get any worse than. But my level of fitness at the time was the highest it's been. The first thing that the consultant actually said to my dad was that if it was you, he'd be dead. I worked at this bar called Brannigan's, which is now Albert Schloss in Manchester. I started going to the gym with one of the guys who worked there, and I just got obsessed by it. And I did get my level of fitness and my strength to such a level that I was able to survive that. So I remember being in the hospital, and I just remember wanting to get back weightlifting. That's what I wanted to do again. I started running one night, and it gave me like so much more energy. So I knew that was the way forward. It was as part of my case, it was a care expert called Maggie Sargent who told me that aerobic exercise was best because it gets oxygen into your blood, which gets to your brain. Keeping fit would be a lot better than for your recovery. And all I wanted to do was I wanted to recover, and I wanted to get back to, the whole time I was deluded. I thought I would just be, I thought it'd be a couple more weeks. But the fitness was something I really pushed. And so I did a couple of 10K runs, and then eventually I did the Great North Run. I did it with a couple of my friends, and we all went and did the Great North Run together. And I raised like over £1,000, and I always wanted to do something with my life, and this was getting a lot of attention, and people were saying it was really good, so I just did more of that. And I saw that for a way of a career for myself. I thought fundraising, even if it's not working 9 to 5, I was doing, bringing some good into the world. It was about having that reason to get up in the morning, and that became to raise the money to help Headway.
Wow, amazing. And it's touching other people, it's raising awareness, potentially saving lives, and at the same time getting that sort of that validation that you have a purpose.
I think with it being like when I'm going back to when I had the Dell laptop and the dongle, you research stuff, and there was just literally nothing out there, and it was just I wanted to just increase awareness of it. And I had this thing which I, to be honest, didn't really understand, and to be honest, I probably still don't understand fully, having a brain injury. But I suppose the reason for that is because the organ that helps you understand stuff, i.e. your brain, is damaged. So, but I did want it to make it more of a mainstream thing. But this stuff's coming in now. There's like stuff like in Sainsbury's you can wear like a lanyard to say you need help and stuff like that. I think Louis Theroux did a documentary on it. There was there's a lot more attention on TV, and I mean there's still nowhere where it becomes the norm, but these people do recognise what a brain injury is now. And I remember people saying to me, I remember going on this date with this girl, and I was still in Scarborough then. It must have been 2011, and her quote was, "The accident was 4 years ago, Brooke. You need to get over it." And I was just saying I had fatigue. It sounded really rubbish. I used to say it was neurological fatigue. I don't even know if that was a real thing, but it was. It just sounded a lot more professional than fatigue, didn't it? It just sounded like I thought that I sounded like I was lazy, but it was something. I just wanted it to be more awareness of, and it to be recognised more. And everything I guess I've done is to promote that. Yeah,
to bring awareness that it isn't just, you're not trying to be lazy. It is a medical issue.
Yeah, and people who have it understand it, but a lot of people, if you mix in the circle with people where, for instance, you go to Headway, you don't have to say, you don't have to explain what fatigue is because everyone knows what fatigue is. But I found the majority of the people that you mix with don't have brain injuries, so they don't know what it is.
Yeah, and you're right. There is a little bit more awareness nowadays and around hidden disabilities, and that not everything is just physical. And I think we've mentioned before the Headway brain injury card, for example, where you can list how your head injury affects you.
Yeah, I would have loved that in the early days, early days of me having a brain injury. But it's out now, so I'd recommend to anybody to get that.
Yeah, but it is important to remember that head injuries affect people in different ways, and can cause different limitations, and some of those could be permanent.
Absolutely, and there's the old saying that if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury. And it was when I was moved to Manchester, you just try and do different things. Like there was something that interested me. It was called NLP. It was neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah,
and there was a talk about that, and I went to this talk. And something that really annoyed me, actually, the woman who was giving the talk was saying that she had a brain injury, and she couldn't smell for a while. And one thing that she did was she got a boyfriend's smelly trainers, and she used to just smell them. And from doing that every night, she got like a sense of smell back. And I remember people sort of looking at me and like nodding as if, you should be like her. And for one, I was trying to explain that it was much more serious than hers. And she said she was trying to sell this. What I went to it was like a taster course for this longer course. And it would be like 8 hours a day for 5 days.
Gosh, try doing that with fatigue.
Yeah, and I was saying like, I couldn't do that. And what she was saying was, you'd be surprised what goes in when you're you don't think it's going in, but it will be going in. And I was just trying to explain that I've got a brain injury, it won't go in at all. But I think she was just trying to get money out of me, wasn't she? That's what she was trying to do.
But thinking about, limitations and coming back to this idea of esteem, of doing something, having that feeling of accomplishment. We've talked a lot about, your specific experiences. You've been able to go into public speaking, blog writing. You've been doing a lot of fundraising. But I'm sure a number of our listeners, that might not be their path.
That was what worked for me. And like you've seen one brain injury, That's what worked specifically for me.
Yeah. And I'm sure there'll be other listeners who, were in a particular employment role, and are looking to go back to that.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's important to, as we've spoken about before in other episodes, about taking the time to recover. It's really key not to set yourself up to fail in that sort of desperation to return to work. It's about giving yourself the time to be able to go back, rather than rushing back and then it all going wrong, which could be much more devastating in the longer run. And certainly people I've supported, I've seen so many people wanting, their primary focus after an injury has been, I want to get back to work. Because, for many people, work is what defines them. It's what is the basis of that feeling of esteem. That's, this is my name is this, and this is what I do. It defines you, doesn't it?
Yeah. I remember I've seen a neuropsychologist called Russell Sheldrick at Salford Royal Hospital, and have done since 2007. What he identified with me is that is the identity. You want to say, I am Brooke and I am this, and I do something. Whereas, I think I'm different in that, a lot of people have families, a lot of people have full-time, jobs, careers already established. I was in a position where I was a student and I didn't really have, I was in the process of transitioning from a young to a person to an adult, and I didn't have anything specifically to go back to. So I've just tried this is what I've found for myself is public speaking and fundraising. But I understand people have families and stuff they have.
Of course. And there'll be concerns about paying bills or supporting family or, whatever. And they're valid concerns. And I guess it's about making sure that those steps are taken at the right time. It could be working with vocational rehabilitation specialists, for example, to understand how their injury has affected them and what skills they have and what those skills could be transferred to, what makes them tick. At the end of the day, you want to be doing something that has meaning and purpose for you. I've seen it so many times supporting people who've perhaps had also other kinds of injuries, complex orthopedic injuries, where they might have been in a much more manual trade. It just wouldn't be appropriate to stick them in front of a computer at an office desk when they've been out and about their whole working life. And so it is important to find what works, but also to take it at the right pace, to do it in a phased way, and having open dialogues as well with employers about any particular limitations, any adaptations that are needed to try and return to the workplace, any alternative roles, something that can still give that feeling of purpose and esteem, and potentially also, the financial benefit of being able to work.
It's not always about financial benefit as well. It's if you need to work, you need to work. But I mean, I'm just talking about I've got a friend Ben who works in a charity shop just for his own self-esteem, not for the money side. And he also he's a comedian, he does stand-up comedy on a night. So it's about having, you can't sit and watch daytime TV, can you? No. You need to do something with your life, because that'll just cause depression.
It's having purpose.
Yeah, having purpose and having a reason to get up in the morning and doing a feeling of accomplishment in the day. Yeah. So when you go to bed at night, you've got to feel, I've done something. And even if it's just, I think that's important. And my sister used to say to me, in my sort of very early days of recovery, if I just try and do one thing a day, you'd have you'd think you could do much more. You had this big plan to do all these different things, but I never accomplished any of them. But when you're in recovery from head injury, a good thing to do is when you tick something off. It's an occupational therapy thing, like it's it's therapeutic, because you're ticking things off a list that you've done something.
Yeah.
And even if it's just one thing a day, just try and do one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And being realistic about what you can achieve. Don't make a list that's so long that you'll never get to the end of it.
Like I do.
I think we're all guilty of it in some way, to be fair. So I guess to summarise then, in terms of help and advice for our listeners, we've talked about finding something that you enjoy, finding something that works for you, but also takes into account any limitations that you might have. If you're already in work, having an open dialogue with your employer about your limitations, about what you need to do. Can they adjust anything? Are there any adaptations? Are there any alternatives? It can be difficult to have those conversations directly. So whether there's anybody that can support you, and that whether that's through, for example, trade union, but also speaking to vocational rehabilitation specialists or occupational psychologists can be really helpful, because they'll have that understanding of how brain injury affects the individual. So it's not just about the task; it's about how your brain injury might affect your ability to plan.
Finding somebody who understands as well, that's a massive thing.
Absolutely. And we do recognise that not everyone will have a sympathetic employer.
No.
So then if you have someone with an occupational psychology or a vocational rehabilitation background, they might be able to point you in another direction using the skills that you have to identify alternatives. Definitely not taking on too much, and that's easier said than done. Specifically thinking about brain injury and often the issues of lack of insight that come around that, it can be easy to want to do everything straight away, and that running before you can walk.
Because while you're recovering, your list of things to do is mounting up, and then you try and do too much at once, and then you're going to fail, and that's going to make you feel even worse.
Yeah. So, allow yourself the time. It's okay to take time to recover and to try and build yourself up towards any activity that will give you purpose. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Make sure you check out the footnotes for more help, advice, and resources. Please don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share our content. If you do have any suggestions for topics that you'd like us to cover, why not drop us a line at hi@braininjurybites.co.uk.